hey guys. I wasn't expecting to go live again tonight. I really wasn't. I was actually about to go to bed and, go hang out with Victor. I was just doing some work and I had to meet with my unwoke army and all that good stuff. I'm basically just giving people a moment to kind of filter in because I didn't know I was doing this stream up until probably 2 minutes ago. Yeah, we're going to talk about the tweet again. I have some feelings. I have some feelings. And, it wasn't as though this stream was like totally out of left field in terms of like the thing. I've been thinking about these feelings lately for a minute. Les Mortar was in bed and it woke him up. Oh, sorry, Les Mortar. I didn't mean to be rude like that. I usually go live with my feelings streams exclusively in my locals community. Usually my locals are the ones that get to hear me whine and complain, but because conservatives decided to fuck me so badly publicly, I thought I might come on here. Richard, you got your okay, Richard's got the mail ready. Excellent. Excellent. Richard, I will be expecting glory from you tonight, my friend. Bradley says, should we uprise the Libertarian Party to have a three-way fair fight? Ooh, I think we should. I think we should pull as many votes away from the Republicans as possible. Now, that's not to say I want Republicans infiltrating the Libertarians by any stretch of the imagination. Certainly not the ones running the fucking Republican Party. Certainly not the ones that I'm going to be talking about tonight. They can stay right where they are and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose. I just think that a lot of the people that I met during the 2020 campaign were libertarians and they just didn't know it. They didn't know it because they saw the woke nonsense going on in the Libertarian Party and they thought it sucked. Which is where I was too. That's what I thought too. All right, this is gonna be a little bit of a rambly stream. I don't have a script. I don't really have a plan, except that I wanted to talk about that tweet. Well, not that particular tweet right this second. I wanted to talk about this tweet. This tweet from Neil Donald Walsh. This is where we're going to start tonight. Now, Neil Donald Walsh, for those of you who do not know, is the author of Conversations with God, which is the book that I was quoting when I tweeted, Hitler went to heaven. Because there's a whole passage in that book about you will understand God when you wrap your head around the concept that Hitler went to heaven and why Hitler might go to heaven and not to hell. And so, not too long ago, maybe a little over an hour now, Neil Donald Walsh tweeted out this. He said, you will return to heaven whether you have loved God in the right way or not. There is no other place to go. Now, that might not seem like much of anything, I think, to most people, but for me, this is one of the most hellish cancellations that I have ever been through. Now, it does not defeat the white identitarian cancellation. The white identitarian cancellation that happened in June of 2021 was far worse than the Hitler cancellation. The problem is that fucking Newsweek article. That Newsweek article that was completely taking something out of context and twisting it in the worst possible way, and quite frankly, lying. I've actually thought about suing Newsweek for defamation because they lied. They lied in the headline of that article. And it wasn't an insignificant lie. It was a big fucking lie. Maybe I still will sue them for defamation. I don't know. But anytime you Google my name, that's what comes up. I didn't say anything different than what he said. And Newsweek, in their journalistic glory, decided to quote a Malaysian Twitter troll on my mental health. And I have no regrets about how I have absolutely no regrets about tweeting what I did because I was correct and consistent with my spiritual beliefs, and I don't think there's anything wrong with them, and I think they're beautiful, and, that's really all that should matter. I don't answer to fucking Newsweek, but it is a problem, and, you know well, Richard says, "You should sue and get help from Kyle's foundation." I don't think Kyle's foundation would help me. I don't think that would happen. And the reason that I don't think that would happen, among many other reasons, is that, conservatives, well, conservatives are raging fucking hypocrites. Not all of them. Not all of them, by any means. There are good conservatives. There are very good conservatives. The problem is that there are also a lot of bad ones. And so when I saw this tweet earlier, I retweeted it and I said, "Go ahead, conservative Christians, cancel him. PragerU, you in?" He's saying exactly what I did. Newsweek, you gonna do a hit piece about him, or do you just reserve that for women whose political views you don't like? I'll wait for all of your outrage. Is anyone going to be outraged that Neil Donald Walsh tweeted, "You will return to heaven whether you have loved God in the right way or not? There is no place else to go." Is he gonna get put on some idiot on the internet's list? When my article first went viral, it's been, over 2 years ago now. When my article first went viral, for people who don't know, because I mean it's been long enough now that legitimately there could be people watching this that don't know. But what you have to understand is at the time that this happened, at the time that I wrote an article about being a Democrat for 20 years and going to a Trump rally and realizing that the media had lied to me and realizing that, the conservatives weren't like what they'd been portrayed as. And I wrote an article, it went viral on the internet. And at the time that it happened, if I gloss over it sometimes as something that like everyone should know, it's because at the time that it happened, I could not go anywhere in conservative circles without people knowing who I was. I was like the conservative darling for half an hour, and it was the weirdest experiences of my life. And conservatives were very, very nice. And I do not believe that I've ever changed my values. People accuse me of this all the time. They say, "Oh, you change all your values all the time." I've actually never changed my values. I believe fundamentally the exact same things now that I did 2 years ago. Um, but I was summarily well, I mean, I left the left. I left the left and the Democratic Party very publicly, and got kind of thrown into an odd political world that I never envisioned being in, at the in 2020, which is of course the weirdest year in history because it was the pandemic, and it was all the riots, and it was the election, and it was just like the oddest year in the history of years. And so I got thrown into this weird political world, and just not really knowing what to make of all of it, if I'm honest. But enjoying my time there. And what I saw in the conservative movement at that time is a movement that was happy, that was feeling really good about the way things were going, that were generally very nice people to be around. They always treated me well. Like it was fun. And there were so many other values that I disagreed with. Like I am not and have never been pro-life, and I will not and never be pro-life. Like that, I am pro-choice. I am pro-choice with limits. I have feelings about it. I've never had an abortion. I don't think I ever would, but I do want people to have that choice. I also frankly think that religion is like the fundamentalist nature of how some conservatives view religion as a problem for me. Because and it's not about them doing it in their church, it's that they want to force it on me and they want to force it on other people and they want to just act like absolute assholes, quite frankly, to people who don't subscribe to their version of Christianity. And so I've always had disagreements with the conservatives. I never thought I was a conservative. I never thought I was on their side. However, the way I saw it was that there was no way that wasn't going to do what I could do to help prevent the Democrats from winning, right? So in for most of 2020, I would say up until probably September, I didn't consider myself a Trump supporter, really. Oh no, it must have been September. It must have been September because that was when Trump signed the executive order about critical race theory in the government, banning it in the government. But from, like, February until September, I didn't consider myself to be a conservative, I didn't consider myself to be a Republican, I didn't consider myself to be any of those things. I was just someone who wanted to watch the Democrats lose resoundingly and was willing to do whatever I needed to do to get there, and if that meant not talking about abortion, fine. If that meant, keeping my ideas about religion staying in your fucking church, then fine. Like, I was willing to put a lot of stuff aside to cause the Democrats to lose or do as much as I possibly could because, I'm just one person, like, I can't do everything, but I was in this odd position of having a platform, and, I was like, "I won't be able to look myself in the mirror if I don't know that I did everything that I possibly could do to make this work." And so I was like, "Okay, conservatives, we have to be friends." Because it doesn't benefit me to dislike the people that I'm around, right? Like, and I was around conservatives for like all of 2020. So I was like, okay, conservatives, I might disagree with you on some stuff, but we seem to have some common ground here. We need to be friends. Like, we need to coexist, man. And I think that that was a similar place to a lot of people who have left the left, like, or people who maybe even still consider themselves on the left, or they consider themselves, to be moderate Democrats or centrists or whatever. Like, I think that a lot of people who start to wake up and red pill and see the insanity of the left is because they don't become conservatives. They just like they know they don't like the far left, but they don't like the far right either. And so that was kind of where I was at with the whole thing for like a long time. So I was touring with the walkaway campaign, and obviously, like, you're always around, like, there are just a lot of conservative women. One of the things that I've noticed is, like, Democrats have a very specific vibe. Republicans, very specific vibe. Libertarians, very specific vibe. Like, all of these different political groups have just really different energies and really different ways that they talk to each other and interact with each other. It's really kind of fascinating. And the people that understand this were the ones that said, "Carlin, you're a libertarian," from the very beginning, because they knew that was just where I was going to fit in, and that's the truth. Um, but I was around these conservatives all the time. I was trying to make the best of the situation, and then Trump signed the executive order banning critical race theory from the federal government, and that really kind of turned me on Trump. It wasn't that I disliked Trump at that time. I was just like, meh. But, I ended up going from I'm gonna vote for Trump because he's better than the Democrats to I'm gonna vote for Trump because I think he's actually doing an okay job, and, oh shit, yeah, he's still, like, way, way better than the Democrats. And so, I had a good relationship with conservatives during 2020, but what I realized looking back on that now is the only reason that conservatives ever liked me. It wasn't because of anything other than I was someone that they could use to get votes from the other side. That's what I realize now. That is what I realize now. That all of it, all the niceties, all of the, all of it was because I was someone that they could use to peel votes away. And, after that usefulness wore itself out, then my relationship completely changed with conservatives. And I think that part of the reason it changed with conservatives was because I started talking about, quite frankly, the issues I was keeping to myself. I wasn't talking like at all. I mean, people think I really like can't shut up sometimes, or they think that I just say everything that's on my mind. I really don't. I'm actually pretty strategic about some of the things I hold back sometimes. And there were just a lot of issues that I wasn't talking about because it was not helpful to what the goal was, which was to get Donald Trump elected. That was what the goal was. And as soon as the election was over, and certainly after January 6th, um, my relationship with conservatives completely changed. And what I realized is that for a lot of them, it's kind of like for the organizations, certainly. Oh my god. Like, for the organizations, like, let me just say brass tacks. I feel incredibly used by the political right. Looking back over what I've experienced kind of since February-ish of 2021, I feel incredibly used by the political right. Now, that's not to say that there aren't very nice conservatives, because there are. Like, conservatives are not bad people. They are just like I mean, many of them, it's like the culture of conservatives, and I don't what I'm about to say, given the context of some of the other things I've said, it might sound insulting. I don't mean this insulting. I don't mean this as like a put down or anything. But like with conservatives, it's like they're very simple. It's almost like, and again, I don't mean this as an insult. It's simple and it's kind of childlike. And, it's like it's like they're just a lot of times very nice and pleasant to be around, and I do wonder if it's just like I maybe this is because I just fundamentally don't fit into conservative culture. I always had a hard time feeling like I had any real kind of like authentic connection with many, though not all, of the people that I was, like, friends with in that time. Like, many, but not all, and it's just I don't know, there's just something that no one is unpleasant to be around, but they put a very high premium on niceness and tone and all of that, and, I don't have that. I don't have it, I do say what I think. I mean, part of my job for years before this was to say what I thought. I don't particularly care to, you know, say it in the most fluffy way to make everyone feel nice. Like, I speak my mind. And I think that started to get me into trouble with conservatives because I was just saying what I thought. And I usually, when I say just what I think, I don't necessarily mean it in any sort of aggressive or angry way. I'm very matter of fact about what I think. And if I agree with you, then I'm going to say that. And if I disagree with you, I'm going to say that. And, I started speaking my mind more. I think one of the things that really did frustrate me with conservatives was when I broke the Coke Be Less White story. That was a fucking huge deal. That was a huge deal. And so I went on Fox News to talk about it, and Fox News also ended up asking me about racist math. And a conservative, and I do know it was a conservative. I don't want anyone saying, it was just a secret leftist. No, 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 no. I know it was a conservative. A conservative cut that clip out of context to make it look like I was a social justice warrior advocating for the teaching of anti-racist math. And, you know what my hair looks like. So hang on, let me bring me up full screen. You know what my hair looks like. I have a leftist haircut. And so when a conservative cut that clip out of context and made me look like a leftist, and it got shared all over the internet, and it just so viral. And that happened in the same week. And that also happened to be the week that I went to CPAC. And so it was the most it was like the most it was one of the highest highs and the lowest lows at the same time. And I want to be clear. I don't see because I know I'm going to talk about like ups and downs of like, I guess my political evolution, for the lack of a better term. But I don't consider myself a victim in any of this. I've put myself in every situation that I've been in. I've made choices that have led me there. I'm not trying to make it seem like I was a victim, but I'm just trying to explain like the process of this, and kind of where I'm at right now with just my absolute disdain. And to be really clear, I have absolute disdain for the woke left too. I have absolute disdain for them. I think why my feelings might be more intense around the conservative right is that they should fucking know better. They should know better. A lot of people who are on the woke left doing what they're doing, they have been brainwashed from the time they were kids into this ideology. We know it's in the schools. We look at it in the schools. We see it in the schools. We know it's there. So a lot of the people who are on the woke left, they have literally been indoctrinated into this their entire lives. And so I view them as victims. They are victims of this ideology. They're victims of that. That's what they were taught by every person they trusted. Why wouldn't they be? And so it's not that I don't have as much disdain for them, for the woke left, as I do the conservative right. But the problem is the conservative right knows what's going on, or they damn well effing should know what's going on by this point, because it's been all over their news. They talk to each other about it. They know what's going on. The majority of them have to. It's been very clearly explained for years. And so I have more disdain for them than I do the woke left, because I view the woke left as made up of largely people who are indoctrinated into this ideology and need to be woken up. And the conservative right should know better. They should know better. And so I had this crazy week where I broke the Coke Be Less White story, and I was at CPAC, and this clip on that of me on Fox News from the Coke Be Less White story was getting shared all over the internet, but it was making me look like a leftist rather than what I was. And thank God there were people that I saw, like every place I saw this clip shared, there were people who were going into the comments and being like, that's not who she is. That's not who she is. Please take it down. Please take it down. And the fact is that I reached out to a bunch of conservatives, like people with very large accounts, we're talking like hundreds of thousands. And I said, I am the person in that video. Here is the full clip. You are posting this out of context. Take it down. And most of them refused. Most of them refused. So that clip went everywhere, all over the internet. That clip flares up every couple of months. And every time it does, I start getting harassed. Because none of them bother to look and see what the person they're talking about is saying. Again, I'm not a victim here. I went on Fox News and I said something that was ripe to be clipped out of context. I quite frankly just did not expect that from conservatives. because they should know better. And, it got shared all over the place. And then Brandon Tatum shared it, and that was really fun. And, he started getting all these comments. This isn't like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? That was out of context. That was out of context." Left it up for a full fucking day. I even filmed a video. I was like, and I filmed it at CPAC. I was like, "Brandon Tatum, how fucking dare you?" And, within a day, he took it down. And then he issued me this apology video, but it wasn't really an apology video. I think he said something to the effect of like, "Can you really blame me?" And his wife in the comments made all had all these feelings about, "Well, she swore in her video, and how dare she? Your husband lied about me to 1.5 million people." This is when things started changing with conservatives and me. This right here. But I still wanted to, try because, what other choice did I have? I still thought the Libertarian Party was woke at this point. You gotta remember, like, when everyone was telling me during 2020, they're like, "Carlin, you're a libertarian. You're a libertarian. You're a libertarian." Fine, okay. So I look into the Libertarian Party, and what do I find? A presidential candidate tweeting Black Lives Matter, and that just wasn't gonna work. And so I thought they were woke, and I wasn't really paying attention until I finally learned kind of around, I think it was around the time of the Coke Be Less White story that, that I started getting in touch with the Mises Caucus. Maybe it was a little bit after that, maybe like a month or so after that, I don't know. And I found out that that was kinda like the place I belonged. So, like, all this shit had happened with conservatives. I had been dragged all over the internet, like, and it was just I was like, "What even just happened?" And, so I'd started to get to know the libertarians, and I was also, by the way, like, working on, like, stuff in New Hampshire, and I kinda got to see under, like, how the sausage is made, and it ain't pretty, and I wasn't happy about that either. And what I mean is I saw it on the Republican side, so this was another it was like, "What am I even doing?" That's kinda like what I felt like with the Republicans, because I kinda thought they were, you know, after all this stuff happened, I had, maybe a month, month and a half in between them and when I got in touch with the Mises Caucus. And so in that interim period, I'm like, conservatives are the only weapon that we have against the left. And I just don't even know where to start. But I had this idea. I was like, you have to be the change you want to see in the world, for lack of a better term. And I'm like, if this is like literally my only option, okay, I guess we're just gonna have to go back to basics. And so I was still trying to play along, and then all these conversations started popping up about like, do gays even belong in the conservative movement? Should we accept LGBT people? And I was on this, debate on Elijah Schaffer's channel with Lauren Witzke and John Doyle and Blair White. And I was just like, this is something that would have happened in the 90s. That's what it felt like to me. And I hated Republicans in the 90s for exactly the gay shit, man. That's what drove me into the loving open arms of the Democrats, was the Republicans railing against the gays in the 90s. And, so to see this again, to see that this is legitimately a conversation that's happening. We just had a whole campaign around the big tent and, more LGBT people voting for Trump than ever before, and we accept everyone. We're just about freedom and individual liberties. And, I'm literally in a debate about whether or not LGBT people should be allowed in the Republican Party or the conservative movement. And so before that, Lauren Witzke, in a loving act of Christian mercy, because Lauren Witzke is Christian, she's Christian. Christian. Um, so right before that debate, Lauren Witzke starts tweeting. Now, sometimes I like to joke about Victor. You guys have now met Victor. Victor is a fully permanent residented alien. He has a permanent green card. But I sometimes joke about Victor that he's an illegal alien. He's not an illegal alien. But I joke about it because it's funny, because there was, I mean, there was a time like that Victor and I met in I know the exact date we met. We met on May 14th, 2011. And you know, we started dating, and but maybe about a month and a half into our dating, and I was totally in love with him. I knew I wanted to marry him on on our second date. Um, but like, so, you know, a couple months into our relationship, my husband got picked up and was almost going to be deported. And you know, we had just started dating. It was a couple of months. Like it was like, um, you know, it was new. It was new. But I was like, okay, time for an ill-considered marriage. Because I already knew I wanted to marry him. I knew I wanted to marry him on our second date. And so we had to go through a whole process with that. Like we had to go to court 18 bajillion times. We had to go do 2 interviews with immigration. Like the immigration system sucks. Like let me tell you, it took 4 effing years from the time my husband and I got married to until he had a permanent green card. It took 4 years. And 2 of those years, he wasn't allowed to work. And so I was carrying the burden of all of this for 2 fucking years. And then 2 more years after that. Anyway, that's a different story. I don't want to get down too mad about that. I can rant about the immigration system another time. My point is this, that sometimes I joke about my husband being an illegal alien because I think it's funny, but he's really not. But Lauren Witzke, that psychopath, started tweeting that my husband should be deported and started calling for my specific husband's deportation. And I'm like, you know, this is kind of like a settled issue. He is staying. He has a permanent green card. Ain't nothing you can do, Lauren. Lauren Witzke was the Republican nominee for Senate in Delaware. She's not just like some woman off the street. She was the Republican nominee for Senate in Delaware, calling for my husband's deportation on Twitter. I'm like, you know what? What the fuck? And so this is the person that I'm literally debating about whether or not gays should be allowed in the Republican Party. So this was another what the fuck moment with me with conservatives. And then it just like kept going, man. It just kept going. And then we hit onto what was it, June. There was more stupid shit in there with conservatives too. I'm just not telling the whole story. I'm trying to give you guys an arc of I went to like the highest high with this to, and I still think many conservatives are very nice people. But you know, I think I'm going to be side note, I just got a text message from someone and it reminded me of something. I think I'm going to be starting a Substack called the Red Pill Diaries, where I'm going to just document and like write stream of conscious essays about what it's like to red pill. And I'm talking going back. I've already gotten some of these essays written, but I'm just literally trying to write them stream of conscious, like what is going through your head when you are red pilling in any different circumstance. I think it's going to be a fun project. Incognito, I couldn't do meeting tonight, no notification. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry there was no notification. I don't know what happened. We had a good meeting though. The minutes are in the Discord and I appreciate it. So anyway, all this stupid shit happened with conservatives. And in the meantime, the libertarians had come and convinced me that I probably belonged more with them anyway. And I was just like, you know, conservatives, it's been real. It's me, not you. Like, you obviously don't want me here. This was honestly my thought process about this. I was like, every indication that I'm getting from every segment of this population is that I am no longer wanted here. That was what I was getting from everywhere. And so I don't want to be places I'm not wanted. Like, I know enough about how the world works that I know that if this group over here doesn't want me, like, this group over here might. It's really not that hard. We have different relationships in life. Not all relationships are meant to last forever. Just because someone's your friend today doesn't mean they will be tomorrow. But that doesn't mean you can't go out and find new friends and new groups and all this stuff. And again, my values were pretty consistent in all of this. My values never really changed. This was just my thought process and my strategy, where I was like, conservatives don't want me here. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I just want to be like left alone to do my work and not like all it was just like it was just an overwhelming amount of nonsense. And so I left and I went to the Libertarians, and that was partially a principled move. Well, no, I would say it's like I would say I agree with the Libertarians on probably like 75 to like 80% of things. I'm still not on board with a couple of ideas. I'm kind of thinking those through. But like for the most part, I do feel it's the most principled place. But also it's like, I'm looking at conservatives, I'm like, you guys obviously don't want me here. Peace out. Now this offended them something fierce. There were conservatives that felt very, very betrayed when I again, like, publicly left, and it wasn't that long after I had joined the Republican Party, like, because I basically joined to piss off Lauren Witzke in that debate, but it wasn't that long after that, and I was kinda like, "Okay, peace out, guys. Have fun." And, my thought process on that was it was mostly principled, like, I'm, like, 80% there with the Libertarians, but there's also this sense to me of, like, both the parties suck. Both of them suck. And the Republicans might suck, like, slightly less than the Democrats, but they both suck. And they both make horrible decisions. And they both act like children. And they both just wanna do whatever they can do to maintain control, and it's like, you know, sometimes you don't always have to win. And so, while I do think the Libertarians are the most principled place for me, it also just makes sense from a strategic perspective of, like, I don't wanna buy into either of these. So, like, I don't need to be 100% with the Libertarians to be perfectly okay with sitting there knowing that I will never be part of the winning team on election night. Because at least it's a principled place for all of their faults, and they have many. At least it's a principled place. And I do sometimes think that, like, the libertarians in some way, believe it or not, are actually the most functional of any of the political movements that I've been involved with. On some weird level, they are actually probably the most functional because they do everything transparently. Like, all their meetings are transparent, their email list is transparent. There is drama for days and days and days. It is amazing. I don't know, by the way, libertarians, because I know we have some in the chat. I don't know what we're gonna do after Reno, because I feel like, at least for me, tell me if this is true of you, I'm so addicted to libertarian drama at this point. There's always something new going on. There's always a new soap opera. Karen Ann Harlow's could do streams for days and not cover all of the drama. But everything's in the open and everyone knows everyone else's business. And you know exactly what the LNC is doing. I don't know what Ronna McDaniel is doing. I don't know what they're doing and flitting around with at the DNC. In the libertarians, it's like it's everyone's shit is out everywhere. And so that's just where I ended up, but it was also like there were conservatives that had been following me since the beginning that were deeply, deeply offended when I became a libertarian. Like, they were pissed. I still get messages today. They're like, "You're throwing away your votes. You're stealing votes from us. How dare you?" Like, they are legitimately upset about this, and I'm like, who even cares? They just kept going and going, man, and it's just like, once we get to the point of that Hitler tweet, to bring it back, because that's where we started, and I do actually need to go to bed at some point because 'cause I'm an old lady. Um, I got canceled really badly in June of 2021 by these white identitarian fuckers. So, in June, after all this was going on, there was also this thing where Fox News started calling critical race theory, anti-white, and I was incredulous about this. I was like, "That's not even true. Critical race theory is not anti-white." And I was starting to get really frustrated because it was actually creating problems because you guys gotta remember, like, I'm not just doing shit on the internet. I do actually talk to people in real life about this stuff. I just don't often talk about it online because I just way too busy with it. Um, and so, like, I hear what normal people that are kinda tuned into this stuff are saying and thinking. And so a lot of times, it like I can see the impact sometimes of how this stuff is going to play out ahead of time simply because I do have that visibility into just like how the messages are flowing in different communities and in different groups, right? And so I was like hearing this anti-white shit and it was immediately clear to me that this language was going to be a problem. And all of a sudden, it was just being spouted everywhere. And it was like, "What is going on?" And what I noticed when this language was being spouted was that people were getting, like, really angry when they were spouting it, like, more angry than normal. And this was in real life. This was not online. This is what people don't understand about this. I was seeing this in real life. I would go to these group meetings in like like small like little town meetings and I would see people snap like boom right in front of me when I would try to explain to them that critical race theory isn't anti-white, it's anti-everyone. It's just racist in different ways to different groups. And that would get them extremely angry. And that's when I started to notice that there was a problem. And I got really frustrated. And I made a video where I frankly like shouted at the camera. I was like, it's not anti-white. Please stop doing this. And, the leader of that little white well-being, whatever the fuck movement that I wrote the article about, that I did all those streams about, back in June, and then whenever we released that article, I don't even remember when it must have been September, I think, September or I don't remember when we released that article, whatever. Um, so, like, getting attacked by that guy and his horde was actually the worst cancellation. But what made it worse is I'm getting attacked by, like, thousands of people from that horde. That thousands. And then on top of that, there was the Groypers. And then somewhere in there, Cassandra Fairbanks's fans were, like, sprinkled in, and frankly, her fans can overlap with either of those groups very, very easily. You can start to tell the groups by the different language that they use. So I was getting it from, like, 3 different directions. That was the worst cancellation I've ever undergone. And from my perspective, at that time, like, I was watching all this white identitarian stuff, and so I'd started to figure out what they were doing, which I later documented and proved completely. But I was also watching, like, how the conservatives were reacting to it. And one of the most, disturbing things to me was that it was pretty clear to me, and I'm not sure if this was, like, instinct or if I, like, intuited this or what, but I started seeing a pattern telling me these anti-white assholes are going into the anti-CRT groups, the Facebook groups, and they're trying to recruit people using this bullshit anti-white language. Because 'cause I'd seen it like, I saw them over and over again. They were so obsessed with that term. And, so I could kinda I'd put the pieces together of what was happening in June, but when I started talking about it publicly, what happened was conservatives saw me say, "CRT isn't anti-white, you've gotta stop using this language, it's not anti-white, you've gotta stop using this language," and they started to attack me and call me a leftist because they said that I had called them white identitarians when I never called conservatives white identitarians. I was talking about this horde of white well-being fuckers that were wreaking havoc on my life. And then conservatives saw me talking about that and assumed I was talking about them, and then they started attacking me for being a leftist. "Oh, you've just gone back to your leftist roots, calling everyone a racist." That was the worst cancellation. That was the worst one. And every time I said that this was real, this was not me, like, I'm not being a leftist, I'm not making this up, this was real. Every single time I said it, it was like I couldn't no one took it seriously. And then I started collecting kind of like evidence here and there, and I started like putting it out. I was like, "Are you serious? Like, look at this, look at this, look at this." Thinking for a moment that the people who had told me that they were just interested in truth months earlier, thinking that if I put evidence out that people would say, "Oh shit, she's actually not making this up." No, that never happened. That cancellation lasted for about 3 weeks. And it was really bad. And the fact that these people that I had defended, that I had gone to bat for, that I had tried to tell the world, "They're not who you think they are, they're not who you think they are, they're not who you think they are, they're not who you think they are." I said that all 2020. And then to be canceled that badly, and to have the evidence right there to say, "You are wrong and you're not listening to what I'm saying." And I later proved every single fucking thing that I said. Did any of the people who led that cancellation ever apologize? Once I proved every single thing that I said? No, that never happened. And so then I went to PorkFest, and that was kind of the last nail in the coffin of me with the conservatives, I think. I just feel like I've seen so much bullshit. And again, I'm not I do not mean every single conservative that exists in the world. I can't address all of you equally in the chat and say, "Yes, you, no, not you." If you're watching, you are probably not one of the people I'm talking about. If you have made it this far, you are probably not one of the people that I'm talking about. So I don't mean everyone. I mean what I see as a collective and what I experience as a collective, because that's really all I can judge on. I can't look at every single person as an individual and say, evaluate you on any given day. I have to look at what I'm experiencing as a trend or one of those things. I can't that's just the way it goes. And but that was where my head just kind of turned off, and I was just like, I cannot even believe that I watched the right become exactly like the left. I was so disappointed. But I'll still work on the anti-CRT stuff. Don't get it twisted. Like, that's what I care about more than anything. Beating back the woke culture and creating a new culture of our own That's what I care about more than anything. So if we can align there, I'm cool. I'm good. And I don't have to like you or agree with you on other things to be able to do that, and that is really all I care about at the moment, and just helping people find their way in different things that, in different parts of the world. So I'll still do I mean, I'm still committed to all of that. I've been taking a little bit of a break from it because I wrote a whole book of all this was going on. All of this was going on. Everything I just talked about. I wrote a fucking book. All of what I was just talking about was going on. I also wrote a book. And that book is about fighting back against the woke, and it's a good fucking book. Even with all that shit, I was still committed to doing this. But I've had to take a little bit of a break lately and talk about some other stuff because, quite frankly, it was a lot. Writing that book damn near fucking killed me. Maybe not that dramatic. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on for a little while because the book is coming out in a month and we have to promote it, okay? Just the way it goes. But I am really excited about it. But anyway, my point is this, is that even though I don't consider myself to be in any way, like, I have total disdain for so many things going on with conservatives, and we're going to get to that fucking Hitler tweet in a second. Like, I still see room to, like, work together where we can agree. Now, if you're talking about banning books or shit, like, we're not on the same team on that. Not banning books. No, it's going to go too far. It already has. But my disdain for a lot of the more vocal hypocrites on that side is just really difficult for me to hide right now. The final straw was the goddamn Hitler tweet. Well, maybe I mean, we can't even say it's the final straw, right? Because I've had 5 or 6 final straws already in this story. I am not going to play this game of optics. I just don't care. I really don't. My values are more, I value authenticity more than I value optics. And so I don't care to play these games. I don't care to pretend that Twitter is a serious thing. Twitter is not a serious thing. I don't care to pretend that I want you to be pleased with what I have to say when I don't care if you're pleased with what I have to say. And so I like having conversations, and I like having conversations on I like having conversations just about things that aren't politics and are just about human experiences. I'm a psychologist. I'm interested in the human experience. And so sometimes I use those types of conversations to, troll a little bit because I think it's kind of fun. I think that trolling, being able to evoke emotions in someone, that's not a bad thing, I suppose. I like the performance art piece of it. And so I was talking about spirituality in a little bit of a trolly way. And I think people knew. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend it was about the content. And then for it to just get taken out of context and used all over the place. When I can point to this guy right here, who literally wrote the book I was quoting. In a trolly way, yes. And this guy says, "You will return to heaven whether you have loved God in the right way or not. There is no place else to go," which is pretty much exactly what I said, except I threw someone's name in there. But if it applies to someone, it applies to everyone. Exactly what I said. Let's see if he's getting canceled by conservatives yet. Let's just see. Dude's got like 25,000 no, not 25,000, 250,000 followers. Nope. Doesn't look like he's getting canceled, does it? Doesn't. And so, because authenticity is such a value to me, that means that one of the things I disdain the most in the world is hypocrisy. And it really does pain me to see this hypocrisy over and over and over and over and over again. It really does. Because again, the right should know better. The right should know better. And I'm not under any delusion that the Libertarians are going to be able to win anytime soon. The Libertarian Party is going to become significantly more effective in the next few months. Gotta wait till the national convention. I mean, 2 months from now, we'll be in the national convention in Reno, so we'll be fixing the fucking problem. But I'm under no delusion that the Libertarians are going to win anytime soon. And the conservatives are all we have, and they're dicking around with things that don't fucking matter. What if all the energy that they use to feed their outrage addictions and canceling me over that Holocaust tweet, what if all that energy had been used to actually trying to win the next fucking election? Maybe a drop in the bucket of what's required, but it's still more than some. And is that the only stupid mistake they've ever made? Please. Why did I care about winning more than they did? That's what goes through my mind when I see no outrage or drama over someone saying and to be very, very clear, I don't want Neil Donald Walsh to get canceled, right? I do not wish for Neil Donald Walsh to get canceled. Neil Donald Walsh is a fucking hero. He is a hero. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. I got some super chats. Thank you guys. Hi from Tasmania. Stay strong and keep up the good work to clean up the world. We need to start from the source. Everything that happens in the US tends to trickle down here later on. Thank you for that, Martin. I appreciate it. And AM says the Orthodox have a similar view to you. Everyone ends up in the presence of God regardless. Just ask trolls if they think largely Orthodox Ukrainian refugees are kooks too. Yeah. And here's my biggest problem with this entire situation. There are a million belief systems in the world that, well, maybe not a million. I'm being hyperbolic. A million belief systems in the world that believe the same things I do. They're not out of left field. Is it unintentional ignorance? Is it willful ignorance? I don't know that it really matters. I mean this genuinely. It's like just seeing the hypocrisy is what I feel the most betrayed by. It's not any of the personal shit. It's not any of the memes with my face on a cow or a pig. It's not any of those things. I feel very, very, very taken in by people who just turned out to be hypocrites. Not every person, but And maybe it was because I felt so betrayed when I left the left. Maybe it was because I felt so betrayed then by this party I had been a member of for 20 years that when something very similar happens on the right, and let's be honest, it was very similar, I'm like, it's almost like that extra dose of betrayal where possibly I'm being too harsh, but can you really blame me? And I would genuinely love to see the situation differently. I do think that between the Republicans and the Democrats, the Republicans are slightly better. I think the Democrats are fucking insane. Like, really insane. Just because I have made shitting on the conservative right into an art form does not mean that I don't think the Democrats are clinically insane. It's like, I don't like, I don't know how else to beg you with every fiber of my fucking being to be better than what you're being. Because if you keep acting like you are acting, you are going to lose every single person like me. The ones you gained, the ones you had earned. And it's just to not have like an ounce of focus on the things that matter. It's like they like go back to focusing on the social issues that are going to lose them every single voter that they gained in 2020. Again, it's like, yes, that Newsweek article is like inconvenient, but now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I actually think it's this part that pisses me off the most. Not the Newsweek article, the part where they just don't even want to try to fucking win. That might actually be the part that pisses me off the most. Not even any, and as much as this stuff has sucked really badly sometimes, I'm just like, I will still work with you if it means we win, but can we please just focus on something that fucking matters? And they just refuse. They refuse to do it. Maybe it's the type of anger that you have, like, when you know a kid is capable of doing something, and they're just, like, kicking and screaming and throwing a temper tantrum, and you're like, "Get up off the floor." Like, you know they're capable of doing it, and it's just like, they refuse. That's the type of anger I feel towards conservatives. Like, rule number 1, don't become the woke left. Oh, we've already failed. I cannot. It's the hypocrisy and the lack of strategy. Those are the things that bother me. Wonder where Christians think judgment takes place. Maybe it takes place in heaven. Point is, they personally know no more about it than anyone else. You know, I don't know if any of this makes any sense. I just get so frustrated by the raging hypocrisy. And there's some days I'm like, you know what? Maybe this whole student debt cancellation is not the worst thing in the world, because if we're gonna slide into a sea of socialism, not in New Hampshire, of course, but everywhere else, if we're gonna slide into a sea of socialism, maybe I want my free stuff too. That's what I think some days. I'm like, this is like this the right is so horrible. We are going to lose unless we can grow the Libertarian Party dramatically and very quickly. So if we're going to socialism anyway, why not? Think about this. What would the last year and a half be like without Chris Rufo? Take that one guy out of the equation for conservatives. One person. I thank God for Chris Rufo every single day, because if he hadn't stepped up, Chris Rufo was the only reporter to step up and investigate when I broke the news that the city of Seattle was conducting segregated trainings. He was the only one. And he investigated and he looked into it. He didn't just take my tweet and tweet it out himself. He took that tweet, did a Freedom of Information request, looked into it, and started following the story. And that was what launched Chris Rufo into fighting critical race theory. And I thank God every single day that happened, because I truly feel like the way I was feeling when I got that Seattle story, I truly feel like I would have tried to do what Chris Rufo is doing if he hadn't been the one to step up into that role. And I frankly don't think I'm the best person to do it. I think he is much better at it. I think that he is doing exactly what he should be doing. But if he hadn't stepped up, I probably would have tried, to be really honest. There are still some things I'm gonna do, but I always wanted my focus to be on like helping normal people. I'm not a journalist. I don't want to do journalism. But if no one else was going to do it, and he was the only person that was going to do it at the time, then I was gonna step up and, and try to do it. And I thank God he did, because I wouldn't like that. Like, what he's doing now is phenomenal. It's just not what I want to be doing, right? And so thank God for him. And just imagine what would have happened. My point is, imagine what would our reality be like with the conservative movement today if you just take Chris Rufo out of the equation with everything that he's done. Just take him out of the equation like he never exists. Poof. The conservative movement would have done absolutely nothing about critical race theory if it wasn't for Chris Rufo. Okay, maybe not nothing. Maybe not nothing. Because were other conservatives. I think of a guy named Ian Pryor. Ian Pryor is doing great work. There are other conservatives that are legitimately, I do believe, like, are in this for the right reasons. There are other groups out there. But Chris Rufo has been the giant in all of this, and we all know it. And if Chris Rufo hadn't done what he did, then I think you take that single activist out of the conservative movement, and that would have changed everything. That would have changed everything. One single person. Really wrap your head around that for a second. One single person changed the entire conservative movement just by following up on that one tweet that I sent out. That is incredible, but it is also terrifying. Because if Chris Rufo hadn't stepped up and done what he did, then the conservative movement right now would have made no progress in the last 2 years. The biggest victory in the last year, the biggest political victory that the conservative movement had was Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. Glenn Youngkin in Virginia would not have happened if it wasn't for Chris Rufo. And so think about that for a second, that the conservative movement right now, all of their progress hinges on that one single person. That's terrifying. What if that next person for that next issue never steps up? Chris Rufo's obviously still going, but and God knows there's decades of work to do in this area. I don't think that this particular problem is going to get solved anytime soon. But my point is that there's going to be other issues that are important in the public zeitgeist. And who's going to step up and lead those issues on the conservative side? What if that one single person doesn't do it? Will there be someone else? That's terrifying. The Democrats have so many different leaders like that. The conservatives have no one. And so it's so frustrating to me. It's so frustrating that they should know better. They know what's going on. And they have no one. They are so incredibly lucky that some of the people who have stepped up have stepped up. I don't know that they really understand this. They are so lucky. And they still just can't get it together. And so all those things combined, I'm like, man, like how can I not feel disdain for this right now? I'm just sorry, man. And again, this is nothing personal. If you're having some feelings about me saying that, I don't know who you are. I have no idea who you are right now. Because sometimes conservatives take stuff like this so personally. Like I will get a million comments on this being like, Carlin, not me. And here's my whole story. And I probably shouldn't make fun of that, but it's just like, I don't possibly know who's listening. I can't help if you take it personally, Only conservatives do that. I've talked about the 3 different cultures of the different things. Anyway. So I think I'm just really disillusioned. Maybe disdain is not the correct word. I'm really disillusioned. And I would love it, beyond love it, if I could make a video saying the conservative movement is awesome. They are so strategic. They're focusing on critical race theory and leaving their religion in their church. And they're just trying to appeal to the big tent that they promised us in 2020. And they just want to protect my free speech and, protect my right to have a gun and protect all of these and protect my ability to practice my belief system, even though none of them effing agree with it. But that's supposed to be the effing point. If they can just do these things, if they can just focus on these things, then I will be happy. And they can't. And that's their choice, That's their choice, but it's just like, man, the rest of us. I don't know. I don't know if this is like I feel like a disappointed mother-in-law or something like that. I don't know. The Libertarian Party doesn't need to win. Just be like the Australian Democrat and keep the bastards honest. Yeah. Well, the problem is I really do think the Libertarians are going to be a spoiler in 2024. I do. AD, how do concrete rewards diminish intrinsic motivation? Oh, that's an interesting question, AD. So the thing is, so there's 2 types of motivation. AD's asking a complicated question. I'm gonna go to bed at some point. Victor's downstairs. He's like, what are you even doing right now? There's 2 types of motivation. There's intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is like motivation that comes internally for like pride or feeling really good or just self-esteem, what have you. Like they come from internal. Extrinsic motivation is when it comes from like your motivation comes from an external source. Like you're going to get money, you're going to get laid, you're going to get, a pat on the back, you're going to get, a high five, whatever that may be, but it's coming from someone or somewhere else to you. It's not internal to you. So what they found is that productivity and reaching concrete rewards, like that extrinsic motivation, productivity will typically be lower when something is about extrinsic motivation than it is when it's about intrinsic motivation. But they've also found that if hmm, shit, I have to remember what the thing is. I haven't talked about this in a while. They find that long term, when extrinsic motivation is significantly higher than intrinsic motivation. So it's like those people who have always chased that paycheck, chase that paycheck, chase that paycheck. That's going to seem counterintuitive. When extrinsic motivation is higher than intrinsic motivation, the people with extrinsic motivation will typically lower perform long term because of that. Because the people who like, if you're always chasing that next thing, you're always chasing something that's outside of you. It's exhausting. Here's my theory on it. It's exhausting when you're constantly chasing that external reward. I think it's a lot easier to look internally. And that's why constantly chasing that emotional or that concrete reward might diminish intrinsic motivation because it's taking more energy away from it. It's like just taking more energy away from your body. So of course it would. That's my theory. I don't know. I could have made all that up. It is entirely possible I just made all that up. All right. I think I've said all I had to say. I don't know if any of that made sense at all. But I actually do feel better for saying it, to be honest. I was just like, sometimes when you're just like to the world, I don't want to give it a chance for anyone to make a meme. I'm sure someone will anyway. But I'm not like a victim. I'm not sad. It's just frustrating. It is incredibly frustrating to see the potential in someone, or in this case, a group of people, and to want them to get there so badly, but they just stand in their way over and over and over and over again. Please be better conservatives. We may have parted ways, but I want you to be better than you are. I need you to be better than you are. I do not understand why they can't look at simple numbers and not understand that focusing on these social issues that is only a turnoff to the middle. It is only a turnoff to them. How can they not understand that this is going to lose them every new voter that they gained in 2020? How can they not understand that? It is just simple math. And it's like, I put my opinions aside throughout all of 2020. Put them aside. Because the win for that next term was more important than what I thought about abortion, or what I thought about religion, or what I thought about, environmental stuff, or what I thought about like any topic that we disagreed on, because there was one goal and differences had to be put aside. And to now watch what conservatives are doing with like sometimes just being like really overt assholes to all of the people who woke up in 2020, and sometimes to libertarians too, which is like the other side of that. It's just like, dude, why don't you understand how elections work? Because most of the people that conservatives are shitting on right now don't have YouTube channels where they are telling you that this is how they feel. That is a gift that the political right can be taking. Like, maybe we're pissing off every new voter that we brought into the party. And maybe we should try to find a way to make some compromises so that we don't alienate every new voter that we just brought into the party. Am I out of line? Because I don't think that I am. Am I out of line? I don't think so. Ty says, how do you think midterms will go? I don't know about you, but I'm down for the libertarian spoiler at this point. Well, I don't know who the libertarian spoiler. Well, Jeremy could actually conceivably be a libertarian spoiler if we're honest about it. Jeremy could be a libertarian spoiler. Maybe. Things are turning very interesting in the New Hampshire Senate race. There is a very interesting Republican contender. I'm still on Team Jeremy. I'm just saying there is a very, very interesting Bitcoin millionaire that is an interesting contender in the Republican Senate race in New Hampshire. I still want Jeremy to win. No, I'm not being unreasonable. The chat agrees with me. I'm not being unreasonable. But you know, they'll never listen to me because I'm the leftist. I'm the leftist that sent that Hitler tweet. Didn't you send that Hitler tweet? Didn't you send that Hitler tweet? Didn't you send that Hitler tweet? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. If someone doesn't make a clip out of that, you're not doing your fucking jobs, I'll tell you what. I don't know. You guys got any questions? No, it's not Don Bulldog. Not Don Bulldog. Don Bulldog's a great guy. It's not. I wasn't talking about Don Bulldog though for the Republican Senate race in New Hampshire. I don't think he's running. I don't think he's running. That's what I think that's what I heard. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's really all I have to say, I guess. I just wanted to rant for a little while. Thank you for allowing me to have some feelings on the internet tonight. Man. It is difficult to articulate how weird the last 2 years has been. Never in my life. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go to bed. Thank you for hanging out with me. Mount the like button on the way out the door, I suppose. I'll see you at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Take care.